Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, joining you on Sunday. I hope all is well. I hope you've had a good Saturday evening. Now, apologies first of all. One of my apologies again at the start of the video. Done a lot of those recently. If you wanted to sit down, enjoy your cup of tea, enjoy your cornflakes, your breakfast on a Sunday morning, and wanted to feel good about yourselves, then this probably isn't going to be the video for you. It's going to be a bit downbeat. I can't raise myself to try and put a cheery mood on it because it's a disappointing day. It's a disappointing morning. Manchester City are champions, and we knew that was going to happen anyway, but it's been confirmed now, and it's been confirmed with a bit of a whimper from Arsenal, unfortunately, after that defeat yesterday at the City ground. When I was driving home from Nottingham last night, I was trying to sort of quantify it all, sum up how I was feeling. I felt a bit... I don't know how to describe it really. I mean, I'd made my peace with it a long time ago. Obviously, yesterday was the realisation was kind of confirmed mathematically and all that. So I wasn't devastated yesterday. I've got past that already. You know, Southampton, I was devastated. The 3-3. Last week, Brighton, it wasn't so much that game either. Again, I'd made my peace with it before that. So it's kind of been building up to this moment. It's almost a relief now that it's done and that you don't have to keep talking about a title race or anything like that. But I think this my overriding feeling driving home yesterday and waking up this morning and think about it is just a bit sad that it's all fizzled out the way it has, because it's been such a brilliant season. I've loved this season. I said this in my last video, or one of my last videos. Sorry to repeat myself, but I've just been so many high points this season. I've loved it. It's given me my, as a fan I'm talking about here, not as a journalist, it's given me the spark back about going to Arsenal. I've woken up going to Arsenal and sort of with a spring in my step, jumped out of bed. It's like match day. Can't wait for this. What's going to happen today? What are they going to do today? And it's been a long time since I felt like that. And at times, as you get older, and I've got 2 kids, a family, and you start to sort of think, those days. I think back to that picture, my days at Highbury, my greatest days supporting Arsenal, where it was just everything. All I thought about was Arsenal. Everything was about Arsenal. Obviously, I've got so much more responsibilities now. And you kind of get older and you think, have those days gone where you care as much as you did back then, when, absolutely every game, every result, it just meant everything. It was all I thought about. And I wondered, has that gone? Have I got past that stage now? And then this season, it's kind of come flooding back. I've had moments where it's just been like, this is amazing. Reece Nelson, Jorginho at Villa, just some of the comebacks, the performances, the wins at Spurs, the way they beat Liverpool, the way they beat Man United at the Emirates. Those feelings from back then have come back. And I've loved that. It's sort of something's been reborn inside of me almost as a football fan, as an Arsenal fan. And that's what I loved this season so much. And that's why it's so sad that it's fizzled out in the way it has. I just wanted them to get to the end, even if they didn't beat City, which it was always such a long shot, even when they had the lead, because you knew City had the games in hand. You knew they were going to win pretty much every game. It always felt like a long shot. But I'd have loved them to get to the end of the season, to the final day, to have really pushed them, and for it to fizzle out the way they had, and for the performances to have dipped, for them to go out so weakly against Brighton and against Nottingham Forest. It's just a bit of a sort of empty, sad feeling, I think, for me. It's my overriding emotion over it. I feel like they deserve more. I feel like the fans deserve more, because the fans have bought into it so much this season. They deserve that sort of final day drama almost. But, ultimately that's not the case, and the team has just run out of steam. And they've just looked a bit broken the last couple of games. I think emotionally, mentally, physically, they're just gone. And, that's come to pass in the last couple of games with the results and the performances. And it certainly felt like that yesterday watching them. It was like the fight had gone out of them. And I think that's what's been so good about this team this season, is the fight they've had, the passion they've had, the determination when things have gone wrong to come back, to fight back. We've seen it so many times since the start of the season, but that's just vanished out of them the last couple of games. And I think that is a direct result of the sort of emotional toll of what's happened, the physical toll of the season, and just the relentless nature of Manchester City has caught up with them. And it's just a sad way for him to go out. And, Mikel Arteta you saw how despondent he was against Brighton, and it was very, very similar yesterday against Nottingham Forest. He said it's a really sad day. There's a lot of difficult emotions, obviously, because we lost the game. We lost the championship after 10.5 months, fighting for it, and 9.5 months at the top of it. I know we've built an illusion, enthusiasm and belief that we could go all the way, but we fell short. Congratulations to City. They're the champions. They deserve to be champions. They've done it for 38 games and we haven't been able to do that. That's it. From my side, I apologise because we've generated belief that we could do it, and at the end the team wasn't able to, and that is my responsibility. He went on. Today it's just sadness. You see a lot of people have put so much work in, so much belief and so many hours, and I'm sad for them because I wanted to find a way. We wanted to squeeze everything we had out of that group and find alternatives and ways to reach certain levels. And when we didn't, we try in other ways. We fell short, and it's my job, my responsibility, and I have to analyse and I have to think. He's kind of similar sort of comments to what he made after the Brighton game there about analysing and thinking, and how when they fell short, they weren't able to find another way to get the job done. And he wasn't as despondent, I didn't think, when he came into that press conference. I think, obviously, like all of us, he knew it was gone well before yesterday's game. But I thought he spoke well in the press conference yesterday, and he didn't hide anything. He admitted they weren't good enough. He took responsibility himself, and I think he had to, because I don't think he got his team selection right. I'll get onto that a bit later on in this video yesterday. But losing at Nottingham Forest yesterday wasn't why Arsenal lost the title. They'd lost the title long before that, and unfortunately, and I've said it before, to beat this Manchester City side, to go toe to toe with them to the level that they've now created in the Premier League, you have to be perfect, basically. And Arsenal have been good, but they've not been perfect, and they certainly haven't been perfect over the second half of the season, really, certainly since March, and that's caught up with them. And Manchester City are going to win the title by a long way. And again, that's a little bit sad when you look at the league table. Once City win their games in hand that they've got, they're going to end up winning it by 10 points or something like that. And it just feels a bit of a shame. It should have been closer than that. I think Arsenal deserve for it to be closer to that for what they've achieved. But hopefully they'll learn from this. Hopefully they'll learn from the end of the season. I thought they learned certainly from last season how it ended, and I think that drove them on to what they achieved at the first sort of 8 months of this season. And hopefully they can do that again. But I think what this end of the season has shown is just how much work there is still to do in terms of sorting this squad out. If you want to get to City's level, the squad needs to be better, the players need to be better. And when injuries have hit this season, when issues have happened, it's just proven too much for Arsenal, and they haven't been able to find the tools. Arteta hasn't been able to find the tools to get it right. And I think his inexperience has probably shown in the last couple of months or so. He's tried a few different things to get the players up again, and it hasn't worked. The back four I didn't understand yesterday. I could kind of, when I saw the team come out, I thought, oh, he's going to play Granit Xhaka at left back, and that made sense to me because that was with Zinchenko out. If you want to kind of play the same sort of way that you've been playing all season, it made sense to drop Granit in there rather than Kieran Tierney, because Granit's more of could play the inverted role slightly better than Kieran Tierney, you'd imagine. But when they actually lined up at the start of the game, and you had Kivior at left back, you had Thomas Partey at right back, Ben White. It was so much changed that you just felt that's a bit weird. There's no width there, and it just played into Forest's hands. And the first goal was always going to be important. Once Forest got it, and it may have been a lucky goal. Well, it was a lucky goal the way it happened. Gabriel obviously slide tackle and deflecting off the player. But once Forest had that goal, they could just sit back, absorb everything. They knew Arsenal didn't really have any threat out wide, so they could just pack the central areas, and it was just like a training exercise, really. It was like just 8 players that sat in front of the defence in the central areas saying to Arsenal, go on, go down the flanks, let your centre back and your centre midfielder who are playing fullbacks go down the flank, because they're not going to do that much, they're not going to hurt us. And they were confident they wouldn't hurt them, and they didn't. And so whenever the ball was sort of funneled into the central areas, there were so many players there was no way through for Arsenal. And it just didn't work. And I thought Arteta should have changed it at half time. It was clearly not working. He didn't. He let it go for a while. And the game just drifted. It was gone. And Arsenal just looked like a shadow of the team they have been for the majority of the season. And it was a sort of sad way for that to sort of finish. we asked him after in the press conference what that sort of back line was about and if there were too many changes to it. And he said, we had a lot of issues during the week with players that haven't been able to train. They only trained for half an hour yesterday. We could have done things differently. I think that Thomas played really well in that position. Again, when you lose, I should have done something different, that's for sure. And obviously there were issues. Reece Nelson didn't play yesterday. He was ill. There's been a bit of illness again in the camp. And so maybe there have been issues. But even so, I just felt if Tierney's there, if you're going to change things that much, it just felt overthinking, last throw of the dice. I don't know what you could really call it, but it didn't work, and I felt like he should have changed it earlier at half time. I was very surprised that the same team came out for the second half, and so I think Arteta got that one wrong. Sort of focusing again on what needs to happen now and why Arsenal fell short. He said, when you come to April, May, you need 24 players that are available, fit and playing at their best, full of confidence and ready to go. For many reasons, we haven't had that. Then there are key moments in the league that define whether the moment goes there or there, and we didn't have those margins going in our side. I think that's the reason we lost it. And he talked to it. He said that it started at the 90th minute at Anfield when they got the equaliser. Then it was a Saka penalty miss. He sort of listed off a few reasons why. And we're all going to look back at what if moments this season, but it's not going to make us feel any better, is it? I thought this was interesting. He said, at the end, it's not been enough, and I know we aren't at that level. He was talking about Manchester City here. How do you close the gap on Manchester City? He said, we're not at that level, I know that, but we have to find a way. It is not going to change in 3 months' time. We are not going to be at that level, but we have to find a way to do it. For example, today we should have played much better. Interesting there, in 3 months' time, at the end of the summer transfer window, we're still not going to be at Manchester City's level. And they're not. This City team's been built over so many years. They're at the very top of the game. They're all at that age where they're pretty much at their peak now. Arsenal are starting out, they're 5 years below that. Arsenal's average age is probably, 23, 24. Manchester City's, I imagine, is 28, 29. And they're all on, they've got a wage bill about £150 million more a month than Arsenal do. So, it's going to be really difficult. And he's not lying there where he said, no matter what we do in the transfer window this summer, we're not going to be at Manchester City's level in 3 months' time. But, that doesn't really cut it, because you've still got to try and compete. And that's what he's saying there. It's like, we've got to find a way. We're not going to be at that level, but we need to find a way. We almost did this season. We've got to try and find a way to improve. And I think the team selection maybe yesterday pointed to the summer transfer window. Reece Nelson was ill, we're told. I imagine that must be true. I can't imagine he would just be left out because he's going to go in a couple of weeks, because it's been pretty clear he's rejected contracts already in the last couple of months. He's still been on the bench up to this point and still come on. So I don't imagine Arteta's going to suddenly bring him out just for the last 2 games because he hasn't signed this new contract. But I thought obviously he could have played Tierney yesterday. The fact he chose not to play Tierney and he played Kivior, maybe it was more tactical, but even so, it just felt like a bit of a nod to the summer. Smith Rowe didn't come on again, which I just don't get. I mean, you're chucking Fabio Vieira on, he doesn't warrant coming on at the moment for his performances, and yet Smith Rowe's just sitting there. I just don't get it, and it must be because Arteta knows that Smith Rowe is going to go in the summer. It must be. It's all I can think about. It's the only conclusion I can come to. Again, I'm kind of guessing it's not. But why else wouldn't he bring him on when you need a goal? Why hasn't he used him in these last few games? So it must be sort of looking towards the summer and what's going to happen and how he's going to try and take the squad on another level. That certain players are going to go. He's going to look to get money in, and he's going to look to replace them, and by bringing in players that he likes more or fancies more. And so I thought that team selection and the fact some of the substitutions, it just felt like pointing towards the summer to me. And we'll have to see what happens with that. Obviously, there's going to be players going out. Granit Xhaka, he came off yesterday. Clearly, things are happening there. Smith Rowe not coming on. Tierney starting on the bench and having a centre-back start ahead of him. It's all pointing to what's going to go on in the summer. So, busy times at Arsenal this summer. I didn't do player ratings last night from the video from the ground. It was so noisy. There was so many. Forest were all celebrating. The atmosphere was incredible last night at the City ground. Fair play to Nottingham Forest. I really like Nottingham Forest as well. They're a good club. Fans are great. Love the stadium, and it was absolutely rocking there. So congratulations to them for staying up. Brilliant achievement by Steve Cooper, given the dramatic amount of players who came in last summer. I think we all thought that Forest were going to go down, so to keep them up is a hell of an achievement. So fair play to them. It was so noisy, I couldn't do the player ratings video afterwards because you just wouldn't have been able to hear it. I'm not going to go through it now because they all played rubbish, and there's not really anything I can. There's just no ratings I can give. I thought Tierney, when he came on, was pretty bright. At least he had played with some urgency when no one else did. Everyone else was sort of sideways, slow moving. Tierney at least tried to up the tempo a little bit when he came on. I thought Jorginho did all right, but other than that, no one stood out. It's just not a match for player ratings, unfortunately. So yeah, but let me know what you guys think about the performance, about the way it's all ended, about what you want to see in the summer, about Arteta. Let me know in the comments below. Apologies, this has been a downbeat video. There's been a few of them recently. It's just the way the season has gone, unfortunately. But look, there's one game to go. Hopefully Arsenal can win that, finish on a bit of a high. I think the atmosphere will be great next week at the Emirates. I think the supporters are going to, celebrate what has taken place this season. And just disappointing this is, we can't lose sight of that. I certainly won't lose sight of that. That there's been a lot of good things to enjoy about this season. It's been a lot of fun at times, and the team has given us an awful lot to celebrate and to enjoy. So I think that hopefully will be celebrated against Wolves on Sunday. Until then, everyone, have a very good end to your weekend. Sorry again, this has been a bit downbeat, but look, the sun's out, the sun's shining. Head out, enjoy your Sunday, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.